but hello, everybody. My name is Richard Joy. I'm the Executive Director of ULI Toronto. I'm here with my colleague my colleague Alex Rybeck from ULI Toronto, who will be joining us at the very, very end of this program as well. It's a real great pleasure to run this very unique webinar, Leading in the Times of Uncertainty. This is effectively a free preview of a module that we're offering, a four-part module that we're offering in the coming weeks that you're going to learn about over the course of this webinar. So if I could first just advance the slide, please. Couple of bits of homework or of housekeeping. Before we start, everybody coming in will be muted throughout the session. So we're asking people to use the Q&A feature or the comment feature. But if you have a question, to use the Q&A chat room function. That's the best way to get those questions forward. And Alex will be looking for those questions to bring them forward if there's time. But generally speaking, there probably won't be a lot of Q&A on this particular session. But if we get some that we can address, we will. But certainly the questions that come in will get addressed back to you by way of email, if not on the webinar. We are recording this webinar, so it's available to members after the fact. If you want to extend this to other people that you know that you think might be interested in both this webinar and the four-part module that follows, please send it. And if you're tweeting, we're using the hashtag Leading Through Uncertainty as our Twitter handle. Next slide. What's really important for us in this really challenging time around the COVID economic fallout is the annual sponsors that are supporting us. We've always relied on our annual sponsors to provide base funding for ULI and the things that we do. There are quite a lot of expenses to running an NGO like ours, and normally we are able to offset our revenues through events and event sponsorships. All those things have disappeared, as you can appreciate, during this time. And right now, our entire viability is reliant on the support of our annual sponsors. So we are truly grateful to them and are trying to do what we can to ensure that we're giving our annual sponsors more value than we ever have in the past. So thank you, annual sponsors. Next slide. I want to just flag for you one of the many things that our annual sponsorships allow us to do, and it's our very robust webinar programming. Hopefully many of you have seen that already, but the next one after today is tomorrow. We have a really interesting expert insights around the provincial policy statement and the community benefit charges. This is the first time we've returned to some form of business as usual, almost pre-COVID type programming. And we're doing that because it's time to sort of move our focus into the world that hopefully we'll be returning to very, very soon. Next slide. You're going to hear more about this from Vanessa. But Vanessa's, as I mentioned, is going to be leading a four-part masterclass Leading in Times of Uncertainty that picks up from today's free webinar and is something that is, I think, being made available at an incredibly low rate of $299 for 4 sessions. This is usually a much more expensive $1,500, $2,000 more or dollars or more, as we've done with ULI in the past. So it's an incredible deal. And for all our annual sponsors, we're making one registration available to each of our annual sponsors at no charge to them at all. So if you are an annual sponsor on this call, please know that you're automatically offered a free registration to this program. That's one way of saying thank you to you. Okay, the next slide. And I know, Alex, you sent me some biographical information. I didn't open it, but I know Vanessa well enough to do a bit of this on top of my head. Vanessa is so very, very generously supported ULI for, I think, 8 years or so in a variety of ways. She's been an integral part of our annual mentorship program, offering leadership module to that exciting part of the work that we do. She's a Women's Leadership Initiative, or WLI champion, and she has led for us, as I referenced earlier, previous workshops similar to the material that she's covering today, very high level, and the modules that will follow that I hope that many of you will join. The interest that we have in bringing Vanessa back time and time again, you're going to see very shortly exactly why. She's amazing at what she does. And with no further ado, Vanessa, I'm going to turn it over to you to take us from here. Vanessa, you may be on mute. Yes, you are.
No, I'm on mute. Can everybody hear me and see me now?
Yes.
Are we good? Okay, excellent. Can everybody see my slides? Okay, super. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the introduction, Richard. It's always a pleasure to partner with ULI. So we have a ton of information to go through. I'm literally going to pop right in. It is a very unusual time for people, and so we wanted to offer you some very tangible tools today to help develop your leadership practice. So here's our agenda. I'm going to share 5 key skills with you. Again, I'm going to go through these skills pretty quickly because I know that we have an hour together. And that at the end of this, I'll tell you, because we only have an hour, what we wanted to do, our goal was teach you some very tangible skills, but we know leadership is a journey, right? You can't learn to lead in an hour. So that's, as Richard mentioned, we're going to offer this 4-module program. Everything I share with you today, we're going to go in depth in the modularized program. Okay. So I've also heard from a lot of leaders I'm working with today, Vanessa, how do I motivate people and engage them and keep them focused? So we'll address that in the webinar as well. Okay, so life is not what you expected right now, you know, and a lot of people are really struggling. There's a lot of ups and downs for leaders, especially because there's no blueprint. There's absolutely no blueprint for leading in a global pandemic. And so it is a very challenging time for leaders. We're making mistakes. And you know, the big word that I'm seeing right now is pivot, and it's okay. I want to let you know, it's okay to be making mistakes and to be pivoting. Right. And I have to say I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I've been developing leaders for 20 years and I've seen leaders go through some very, very challenging times. And I have to say it's those challenging times that we learn the most from in our leadership practice. So today it's really about sharing some of those best practices with you that I think are most relevant for leaders now in this very uncertain time. So I want to give you sort of a background in terms of why I think many leaders struggle. What I do see typically is that before you head into your leadership journey, you're typically a really good individual contributor, right? You're someone who's smart, you're dedicated to your job, you're really good at it, you've developed a lot of knowledge in your specific area of expertise, and then someone sees that and they tap you on the shoulder and they say, hey, you excellent person at what you do, why don't you start in leadership, in a leadership position, right? And then what happens is you get promoted into a leadership role and you're like, what? This is so different, help. And that's totally normal. Why? Because many people who get promoted into leadership roles never get the training that they need. They never get the coaching. And so today I want to help you to really break down leadership into some quantifiable parts. And then you're all going to be at different places right now, right? So some of you may be new to leadership, right? Some of you may feel uncertain. These are things that by the way, these statements, I know this is a very busy slide, but I wanted to start with this to reassure you that these are things that I hear from leaders all the time, right? I hear really, really smart, talented people say, I don't even know if I'm a good leader, right? And it's because they don't know, they've never learned the basics of leadership. That's it, right? A lot of leaders are unsure am I doing this right now in this unusual time, right? So if you're feeling any of these things right now, right? I just wanted to let you know that's normal, right? Welcome to normal. Don't think, you know, it's interesting. I wrapped up an 8-module program yesterday we, the CEO joined the cohort of leaders, and he asked them, what have you learned? And one of the most interesting things that people said, first of all, is it increased their confidence, having a leadership toolkit. And second of all, they realize they're not alone, that there's things that they struggle with as a leader that everybody else struggles with as well. So that's why I wanted to show that previous slide, to say, if you're worried about any of those things right now, it's normal. It's normal, right? So you may be brand new to leadership, you may be leading other managers for the first time, or a department or enterprise, or you may be the CEO of your organization or the head of your organization, right? It doesn't matter where you're at. All of this content is 100% applicable. The concepts that I share with you today, I've taught leaders of all levels. One of my clients actually that I taught this content, I actually worked with him one-on-one, coaching him. His CEO asked him to work with me because he had anger management issues, right? And he flew off the wall. He's had no self-awareness. And we worked together for 2 years to develop his leadership practice. I have a picture of a tennis player here because I want to just share with you the concept that leadership's a sport. You know, you can't just learn to lead in an hour. And that's why we have this modularized program that we're offering after. But this leader, I worked with him for 2 years. He was so hardworking. If you want to develop your leadership skills, you can, right? And you have to work hard at it and know that you're going to be working on it over time. So this individual that I worked with over time is now the CEO. He worked so hard, right? And the reason I wanted to share those different levels with you is new level, new devil. That's one of my favorite expressions, which means that's why the leadership journey is continuous. It never ends, because when you move into a new level of leadership, it's different. The expectations are different. The skill set that you need to learn is actually different, okay? So there's really good news, right? I've talked sort of a little bit about the struggles of leadership right now, but it doesn't have to be that way. I promise you there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and there's a couple of things that you need to know to get to that light if you're not already there, okay? One is, and I love, love, love Maya Angelou, and this is one of my favorite quotes, right? Do the best you can. Right now, know that whatever you're doing to lead in this very unusual time, you're fine. You're doing just fine. And when you know better, you do better. It's as simple as that. And that's why learning to develop your leadership is so important, because you're just going to know better, and then you're going to do better. Okay. So I hope that's reassuring for you. Okay. So 2 things that leaders need. Number 1 is our tools. Right? Leadership, again, like playing tennis, you have to have a tennis racket, and you have to have tennis balls, and right, you need tools. Leadership is exactly like that. There's very specific tools that you need. Okay. Leadership also needs a process and a plan. You need a development plan. So you could learn to lead through like reading. You could learn to lead, like there's free things that you could do, right? You could learn to lead through reading books, or emulating somebody else who's a great leader, or watching YouTube videos. But the fastest way to get there is through very focused training. With all the people that I work with, the reason they love working with me or other coaches or executive coaches or trainers is that we accelerate your learning. So that's what today and this modularized approach is about. Accelerating. You don't have to read 15 leadership books. I'm going to take you through some very quick content today and in the modularized program. Okay. So the process that I've developed that I take all my leaders through is these 3 pillars of leadership. And the reason I have these 3 pillars of leadership is because leadership is very complex and it's very multifaceted. And that's why people who've never taken development before come to leadership training feeling insecure, right? And that's why people who have taken an MBA still have an executive coach or come back to leadership, because there's so many components of it. The first pillar, you have to know yourself. The second pillar, you have to manage your team. And the third pillar, you have to lead your business. So today on the webinar, what I thought we would do is I'm going to go through 5 key areas. And these are the 5 skills that I believe all leaders need to know right now. Okay, and I'm going to go through each of these. I've just put a little URL at the bottom of the screen, topleadershipskills.com. I would suggest all of you pop over there now quickly and download a PDF file that I've created for you. You can do it now or at the end of the program. This is it's a companion document to the webinar that we're going to go through. So again, if you're someone who wants to kind of follow along, everything that we're going to go through pretty much is in that companion document. It's almost like a workbook that I've created for you. So, and you can do it at the end of the session too. I'll put that URL back up at the end of the session. So we're going to focus on 2 pieces from Know Myself, 1 piece from Manage My Team, and then finally we're going to do a couple of pieces from Lead My Business. Okay, so let's start right here. Okay, so question, and you know what? I'm actually going to invite you all to pop into the chat. So here's what I want to know. Why do you think that it's important to be self-aware as a leader? Okay, so I'm gonna pop into the chat here. Let's see what your thoughts are. Pop into the chat. Look, what do you think? Okay, why do you think self-awareness is a critical skill for leadership? Let's see your thoughts and pop into the chat. Let's see your thoughts. Lead by example, understand how you affect others. Yeah, need to be aware of, your own impact on others. That's exactly it, right? You guys are right on because you all set the tone. Okay, you must know your weaknesses in order to address them. For sure, we're gonna talk about that. You're absolutely right. If you don't know yourself, you can't know others. Exactly, right? So without self-awareness, you lack the ability to understand how your behaviors impact the people around you. So like that person who's now the CEO of this large organization, he didn't have any self-awareness. He didn't know that when he went on these crazy rampages and screamed and yelled, that he was causing a lot of disengagement for the people around him, right? It also allows you to focus on your strengths and mitigate your weaknesses. We all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. Why? Because we're human, right? And just that's the way it is. So we need to be aware of what our strengths are and leverage them more, and also be aware of our weaknesses and look at how we can mitigate them more effectively, right? So let's talk about some of these strengths and weaknesses, right? You may be someone who thinks, and this is why you need to have self-awareness. You may think that you are coaching, but other people may see you as a micromanager, as a nitpicker, right? So if you are someone who tends to be really detail-oriented, you got to know, hey, you know what? I am a detail-oriented person, but I know that this is a really important thing I'm about to say. Your strengths, when you overuse them, become weaknesses. So being detail-oriented is excellent, right? Because you don't miss a trick. You're really comprehensive. But on the flip side, if you're not aware of that, you become a nitpicker, right? So you may see yourself as someone who's really creative and a big picture thinker, but other people need more specificity from you as a leader. I work with a lot of people who are incredibly strategic. And often what I hear from their teams is they just don't tell me what they expect. Like they just don't tell me, they don't clarify what they need from me. They're too high level, right? So if you know you're a high level thinker, you also have to know how to give people very specific instructions, right? You could be someone, again, who you see yourself as super organized, but other people see you as chaotic in the way you think, because you think in a pod way, but the people that you work with think in a linear way, right? You could see yourself as someone who's just really results oriented. I guarantee you I get results, but people see you as lacking empathy, right? So this is why, so I want each of you to think right now about what you are good at, right? Because we're gonna get to a slide around that momentarily. What you have to do is you have to align your intention with your behavior. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Let's say I intend to be empathetic, but right now I'm like someone who's focused on results and it's so crazy and intense and stressful that I'm just driving for results. Oh, but my intention is to be empathetic. Listen, people don't know what your intentions are. all they see is your behavior, right? So if you're behaving like someone who's only focused on driving all the time, and you never stop and say, team, how are you? Okay, you have to match your intention with your behavior. You got to stop focusing on results and connect in with people sometimes. Your intention and your behavior, does that make sense? They have to match, okay? Because people make judgments about you as a leader, not based on your intention, what you intend to do, but actually what your behavior is, okay? So that's really important. So here's the key thing I want you to ask yourself right now. What are my top 2 strengths? And what are my top 2 weaknesses? Now, your top 2 weaknesses could be some of your strengths that you overuse, right? And ask your team, like on your next team meeting, ask them, hey y'all, like, what do you think my top 2 strengths are and my top 2 weaknesses? And so this chart, I know it's like a very busy chart, but what I want to show you is often like some of the strengths I see and the weaknesses that they move into. So if you tend to be strong technically and analytically, sometimes you struggle on the empathy side, right? Or you struggle when, you know, people are not performing to your standards. You could have really strong planning and execution skills, but you struggle to think creatively. Okay, so just think about if any of these resonate for you. You can even type into the chat right now. Like, I'd be curious to see what are some of your strengths and how do you sometimes overuse them so they become a weakness? I'd love to see your comments in the chat, right? Maybe you're super expressive and you're really influential and you can sell your ideas, but maybe you're not as good on the analytical side. Maybe when it comes to in-depth planning, that's not really your structure. That's not your strength. And that's fine, right? That's fine. I'm strategic and work well conceptually, but I struggle to get into details sufficiently, okay? So these are some of the very common strengths I see and how they overlay into weaknesses. And I want you all to be aware of that because I want you to leverage your strengths and mitigate your weaknesses, okay? So if anyone has any insights around that, pop them into the chat. Like, what do you see as your strengths and how does that kind of overlay into your weaknesses? Okay, so let's move on into the second pillar. Now I know I'm going through all of this super quick, very quickly. So that's why I wanted you to download that document and so you can take notes and reflect after today. So today I'm going to share a lot with you. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to have time to reflect. Take the time to reflect after. Okay, so let's focus on mindset. What the heck does mindset have to do with leadership? Let me explain what mindset is. It's our thoughts and beliefs, okay? I bet that you're having a lot of thoughts these days, because I am, that are not serving you, okay? Like, I've had to reinvent my whole business. I'm a trainer, right? I train leaders in person. It's what I love to do. I'm not seeing any of my clients right now. I've had to move my whole business virtually. Now, to be fair, I've run virtual training for years as well. I have clients in Sydney, Australia, London, England. So I've used Zoom as a platform for years. But literally my entire coaching practice and training practice is now online. That's my focus right now. And you know, that's something that I've really been pivoting and thinking about. So you have to be aware of your thoughts and how they impact you and the people around you. So I'm going to share an amazing book with you. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this book. You probably love it as much as I do, but Carol Dweck was a university professor, and what she did is she studied successful people for 20 years. And what she did is she identified the difference between those that struggle and stay in that place of mediocrity and those that really thrive. And it's their beliefs. You know that expression, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. That's exactly what Carol Dweck talks about in the book. So I want to share with you the key concepts that she looked at. So what Carol Dweck looked at is that people who have what she calls a fixed mindset struggle, right? Because if you have a fixed mindset, it means that I believe everything's set in stone. So like my skills and talents are set in stone. If I have a challenge, I'm a loser because, you know, I messed that up. No, you didn't. You just made a mistake, right? Because if you're in a growth mindset, you believe I can improve with hard work, literally with anything. Now, I think it's fair to say that all of us are fixed in certain areas and growth in certain areas. Like, you would not be here if you weren't a growth mindset person, if you weren't really open to learning about your leadership practice. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. And I want you to start thinking about where are there places where you're fixed. Okay, so let's look at this in terms of COVID. Okay, I want to talk about directly where you may be feeling a little stuck and a little in a fixed mindset. Because don't forget, growth mindset is nothing set in stone. With hard work, now this is the key. With hard work, I can develop anything. With hard work, my team can develop as well, right? Like that person who's now CEO of a big company, it took him 2 years to develop, to get to that place where the organization would even consider him as a viable option to be CEO, right? It was only 5 years after we started working together that he was promoted to CEO. So it was because he had a growth mindset, because he really knew that nothing was set in stone, that he could develop. But man, he worked hard. He worked damn hard for 5 years. I could tell you that. So let's look at it in terms of the example I wanted to share with you is leading a virtual team. Okay, so let's look at skills. Can you improve to do that? Yeah. Is it necessarily natural to all of you? No. Is it challenging? Yes. Right? So if I'm in a growth mindset, right? Don't be hard on yourself. If you're like, I don't even know if my team's engaged, right? You're learning. Ask them, right? You need to work on many, many things right now. It might take hard work for you to develop this new skill of leading. And that's okay. That's what the growth mindset is all about, right? Yeah, you're going to have a ton of challenges right now. So your growth mindset is, you know what? This is challenging for me right now, this new environment, but I'm not going to be hard on myself about it. I'm going to use all of these challenges as I'm going to embrace them as a chance to grow. Yeah, there'll be many challenges. Put it into perspective. We're all in this together. We're all going through this crazy uncertain time together. It's new to all of us. Please don't be hard on yourself. If you are, then what do? You go, shit, I'm in a fixed mindset about this. I need to move to growth, right? It's literally as simple as that. And then you say, well, what could be a different perspective that I could hold? One of the good tricks that I have on shifting my perspective when I'm being really hard on myself, I go to a place of curiosity. So when I think about, man, like, how am I going to do this new thing? I don't even know if I'm going to be good at it. I get curious and I go, wow, if I was really good at this, what would it look like? I'm curious how this is going to unfold for me, this new business model that I have. Do you see the difference? Did you notice my energy shifted when I criticized myself and had those fixed mindset thoughts? And then when I moved to like that place of curiosity or moving to a place of gratitude, that's why they talk, gratitude is such a big thing. People talk about it all the time, right? Because it shifts your energy. So shift, if you're in fixed, shift to gratitude or shift to curiosity. It's an excellent tool. Okay, effort. Yeah, effort is essential as a path, as a path to mastery. You have to put in effort. Try things. If they don't work, don't be hard on yourself or your team. Dissect it with yourself, dissect it with your team. Say, everybody, like, what worked, what didn't? Let's analyze that. Let's shift a little bit, right? Yeah, you're going to require effort. It's normal. It's normal. So part of engaging your team right now is going to be to give feedback. So don't ever look at feedback. Again, when we, in the 4-module program, we're going to spend a lot of time on feedback, because I see it as one of the biggest stumbling blocks for leaders, especially now. One of my clients I was talking to yesterday said, Vanessa, like, how can I even give feedback to people? They're not even on sharing their video screen with me. I can't see them. So I said to her, clarify your expectations with your team. Tell them, I need to see you on video. Or on one-on-ones, I need to see you on video. That way, when you need to give feedback, you are live, you are face-to-face. So I will share how to give feedback with you in that 4-module program. It's critical that you're getting it right now. Again, finally, we have setbacks, right? Setbacks, if you're in a fixed mindset, you go, oh, I'm an idiot. Why did I fail? I should have known better. Notice your mindset around that and switch to growth. You're going to have setbacks. It's normal. Pivot. Don't blame yourself. Say, what did I learn from that? What could I do differently or better? Okay. And then finally, the last thing I want to share with you on mindset is these beautiful, beautiful 2 words, which are not yet. Okay. So let's say you give feedback to somebody over Zoom and it doesn't go so well. Don't go in fixed mindset, because fixed mindset, you're going to give up. You're going to say, man, I just suck at this. Growth mindset is, I am not yet there. I'm learning. This is new for me. And what did I learn from this? What will I do differently next time? Boy, this time I didn't do it face to face. Next time I've learned. I'm not yet there. Like, I'm learning. Next time I know, okay, I have to give it face to face. Okay, so I would really encourage you to grab a sticky note and scribble "not yet" on a piece of paper and like stick it somewhere where you can see it. Because this "not yet" phrase is going to be so helpful right now as we go through these challenging times. Yes, I see someone in the chat says, be kind to yourself. That's the growth mindset, right? Being super kind to yourself. Couldn't agree more. And then if you're kind to yourself, you can be kind to the people around you. Okay, so here's our question. Here's my questions for you. What are you holding on to from the past that's not serving you or your team? That question will unravel for you a fixed mindset that you may be holding on to you. How am I judging myself? Okay, again, notice your thoughts from this day forward. I want you to start noticing your thoughts of how you're judging yourself or others. That means you're in a fixed mindset and you need to shift to growth. And for those of you who are perfectionists, please read the book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. It was a game changer for me. I am officially a recovered perfectionist. I used to nitpick everything and nitpick myself on every mistake I made. I don't do that anymore. Okay. So any questions in the chat? I'm also going to be available at 1 o'clock officially when we end for questions, but if there's any questions you want, the name of the book was Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. And the author is Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K. Love the book. It's a must read, Okay, let's move on to coaching. So coaching, I'm a certified coach. It took me over a year to achieve my certification. I wrote an oral and written exam. I've been coaching for 10 years. So coaching is not something you can learn in 2 minutes. And again, on the 4-module program, we're going to be focusing on a lot on coaching because it's a critical skill right now. But what I thought I could do in the time that we have in this webinar is share with you 2 kinds of coaching. And then I'd like to give you some agendas for each. So it's like a very tangible, practical takeaway for you. Okay. So first thing when you're coaching, please remove all distractions, right? Get rid of your phone, put it on silent. You need to be super present. And one of the core behaviors that are really important when you're coaching is to listen. Now, I know some of you are really good at solving problems. That's not coaching, okay? When you, as a leader, I want you to think about it as you wear different hats and you're constantly taking off hats and putting on different hats. So, for example, when somebody's new to a task, you're not coaching them. You're directing them, you're telling them, you're putting on your teaching hat. It's directed, it's very specific, it's step by step. But when you're coaching someone, you're taking off that telling hat because you want someone to learn. You want someone to think for themselves. Listen, you hire smart people. You have smart people on your team. Get them to think for themselves, right? So put on your coaching hat. And it is amazing for those of you who are great listeners, you will know how much you pick up when you zip it and listen. And for those of you who are constantly telling people what to do all the time, my challenge for you is zip it up. Listen and ask questions, and I'm going to show you how to ask those questions, okay? I'm going to have an amazing tool for you on that. So in terms of the 2 types of coaching, so we have formal and informal. You need to be doing both right now, okay? Formal coaching, but we have a comment around listening. Yeah, listening is key, absolutely. Formal coaching is scheduled. So hopefully you're doing some formal coaching weekly and you're documenting your coaching and you're having an agenda for your formal coaching. And formal coaching has a different purpose than informal coaching. It's strategic, right? We're talking about goals, objectives, priorities, and I'm going to show you how to get very focused on goals right now when our future is super uncertain. Okay. Again, I have a tool for that. I'm going to get there in a minute. Informal is unscheduled. It's like, hey, how are you? Let's check in. It's conversational, right? This is where we're solving problems and finding solutions together. Okay, so this is super, super, super important. You probably think, I'm a leader. I need to have all the answers to everything. You don't. You don't. I promise you, you don't. Why? Because we're living in so much uncertainty right now, right? What you need to have are the questions. You need to have a super amount of transparency, that's for sure. Ask questions. So let me give you a really tangible example of what I mean by that. So let's say you're worried that, you know, I'm finding my team's not really engaged on our virtual meetings, but I don't know how to get them engaged. Great, ask them. Hey team, this is just a beautiful example. Hey team, I don't know, like I'm feeling like our team meetings, virtual team meetings aren't that engaging for everybody. What can we do differently? Ask them, they'll tell you, right? So anything you're feeling like you should have the answers for, ask your team, they're smart, right? That's why you hired them. Use collaborate with them to come up with solutions together. Okay, so here's my super juicy tip from professional coaches. This is one of my favorite words, and all professional coaches use this word. It's called what? And some of you are wired to think in terms of why. You're very left brain. This is a very right brain question, right? Remember I said before, go to that place of curiosity. What is the most curious question? So let me give you an example. If someone makes a mistake, you could say to them, why'd you do that? Okay, so type in the chat. I'm gonna pull up the chat here. What's the connotation of me saying, why'd you do that? What do you think? Why'd you do that? Yeah, it sounds accusatory. Absolutely. It's funny. All of you wrote it's accusatory, right? It sounds like an accusation. You're absolutely right. So let's see if we can switch that to a what question. So it could be, you know, walk me through the steps you took. What were the, or let's do the what question. It could be something like, what were the steps you took to come up with that conclusion? Let's walk through that together. Right? So again, you're coming from that place of curiosity, not judgment. It's so beautiful. It works so well. Okay. Here is an agenda for you. And oh, lo and behold, 3 out of the 4 questions start with what? Okay. Weekly agenda. Keep it structured. It doesn't have to be long. It could be 15 minutes. It could be 10 minutes, but make sure you're checking in regularly. So what could your weekly check-in look like? It could look like what's on your plate right now, or what's on your plate this week? What are your priorities? I want all of you to get your team super focused on priorities right now. Listen, your priorities may have shifted now from what they were 5 or 6 weeks ago. Again, normal. What do you need my help with? Okay. The last one is really about, here's what I need to share with you. I need to share with you that I actually think your priorities need to shift this week because this and this and this has happened. I just came off an executive team meeting and I need to share with you some updates on this and this part of the business. Okay, so it gives you an opportunity to share updates as well, but start with them. Okay, so that's our weekly one-on-one. Here's our daily check-in. You don't need an agenda. Hey, what's up? How are ya? What you working on? I love those 2 questions of what's working, what's not. What's working for you today? What's not working, right? It's a great time to ask people what's stressing you out right now. You may not have the answers. Again, you don't need to have the answers. Brainstorm with them. Say, I'm sorry that's stressing you out. What can we do? Again, what can we do together? See that lovely what question popping up? Let's brainstorm what we could do to help you feel better about that. You don't need to have answers, have the questions for them. It's so super powerful. Okay. So, you know, for all of you, I want you to really use your good judgment on how often you need to coach. And it's going to depend on a few things, right? Like length of time and role. So how long has this person been doing their job? If they've been doing their job a long time and they're like super, like you could just delegate to them and they kind of, you know what they're doing. I don't know, maybe you check in a little bit less. But if someone's brand new, I know many people are onboarding new people right now, right? You check in with them more. They're going to need to hear from you. Maybe you go from daily to 3 times a week to weekly, right? So it also depends on even like the second bullet point. This is a really important point. If someone is senior that reports to you, but they're developing a new skill, you got to meet with them more because they're developing that skill. Don't assume just because someone's senior or has a lot of experience that they can do everything perfectly. Not when they're learning something new. Okay. So the other thing could be, you know, this is a performance issue. Maybe you need to spend a little more time coaching. So again, use your good judgment. There's no right or wrong. You know, with leadership, there's no right or wrongs, right? Like there's no right or wrong on how often you connect. Again, you don't need to know the answer. Ask your team. Hey, we're having one-on-ones weekly. Is that good? Is that working for you? Do you want to meet more? Do you want to meet less? Right? Okay. So let's move into our final pillar. And we're going to look at setting goals and prioritizing and managing change. And I'm going to share with you a couple of quick tips on each of these. Okay. So, again, I just popped this in again, the URL. If you want to download the document that's a companion guide to this webinar, you can do it at topleadershipskills.com. All of like the meeting agenda for informal, formal meetings, it's all in there. Okay. So you may be wondering, what the heck does a frog have to do with prioritization? Okay, I'm going to get to that, I promise. Just a little teaser of what's on the next slide. Okay, so how can I be focused and more productive each day? Great question, especially now. I don't know if any of you have kids at home. I do. I have an 11-year-old. I have 2 sons, 11 and 13. I'm running a business. I'm homeschooling my kids, doing everything else, right? Both my husband and I are self-employed. So like you, we're all working super, super hard. And so this has become really important because I'm homeschooling my kids. My 13-year-old, he's on his own. He does everything online with his friends. My 11-year-old's a reluctant learner. He requires me or my husband to be there sitting beside him every single day. And sometimes there's tears and some days are better, but it's not easy. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. It's not easy. Okay. So we got to get focused and productive every day. So every single day I'm writing a to-do list. And listen, I have a book here. This is my book. Right? Hey, those of you from Quadrangle, you're going to recognize this book. Every year Quadrangle, because they're one of my clients, sends me these beautiful books, and I'm using it as my agenda. Yay, Quadrangle. Love you guys. So every day I write my to-do list in here. You could do it electronically on your phone. It doesn't matter. Everybody has their own system, but write your to-do list every day. Okay. Then what I do is I circle my 3 most important tasks because my to-do list there's so much to do. Do you feel like that? Do you feel overwhelmed? So many people are feeling overwhelmed right now. There's so much to do, right? So I circle the 3 things I must accomplish today. Now, when I accomplish them is going to be very different from my normal 9 to 5 because I've got kids at home. So before I go to bed every night, I look at my list and I make sure I accomplish those 3 things. Okay. Now, what does eat your big frog mean? It means your big frog is your juiciest, most important task that you have to do that day. Do it first, right? You may do it before you get on a Zoom call, before you have coaching with your team. You will feel so relieved when you get that big frog eaten every day. Do the big thing first every single day. Okay, so those are my prioritization tips for you. Let's look at goal setting. You still need to be strategic right now. Okay, so how do we set goals when we have no idea what the future looks like? Oh, this is one of my favorite things. I'm so excited to share it with you. Okay, so you ask yourself this question. And I really encourage each one of you, if maybe do it right now, grab your pen, grab a book, and I want you to write down, if you don't have paper already, grab a pen and paper, and I want you to write down what I am paid to do right now. Because your goals that you set organizationally as a business for your department, for your team, have likely changed, okay, from what they were 5 or 6 weeks ago. So you write down, what am I paid to do? Okay, so take a minute to do that. Then you're going to write down your 2 to 3 key goals. So based on what I'm paid to do, what are the most important things I need to accomplish as they roll out of that? And then break each goal into baby steps. And that's what you're going to focus on that's going to go on your to-do list. Okay. And then what I recommend you do is share it with your team. So you trickle it down. I'm paid to do this. You're paid to do this. What are your 2 to 3 goals? Now let me help you break your 2 to 3 goals down into baby steps. And then you're discussing progress around these goals on your one-on-one, right? So everybody's focused on what they're paid to do right now. Oh, I love this. I love this. I do it with my team all the time. Okay. So I hope that's helpful, and it's going to keep you really strategic even during uncertain times. So the last one we're going to focus on is managing change. And I just want to let you know that change, we're all in massive global change. I see this as I'm actually excited. I see this as a huge opportunity for leadership in so many ways, and for businesses in so many ways, to make the world a better place, to make leadership a better place, to make organizations a better place, to make organizations a place that care about their people, that really do put their people first, right? But let me tell you, change is super hard. It's expensive. It takes time. And quite frankly, we're programmed not to change. What's so interesting about this whole COVID is we're programmed not to change, but literally March 13th, when I was supposed to go to Miami for my March break with my kids, well, that didn't happen, right? March 13th, it was like, okay, everybody, you're working from home starting Monday, go! And we're programmed not to change. So this is what happened, right? This is an amazing tool which looks at all change. We have an ending, a neutral zone, and a new beginning in all change, right? So yeah, kids are programmed for change. Teenagers are wired for complete disruption. Oh, I love that. That's a great perspective, Catherine. So in all change, right? Change is fast. You're working from home. It's Monday morning. The transition from the old world to the new world is what's super slow. So we were all in a place of like denial and shock and anger. I was, and I can't speak for you, but I know many people that I spoke to really were in that place of, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And this is crazy. How are we going to pivot everybody to working from home? It was like a super stressful and frustrating time. So it's really interesting right now, because I'm finding that a lot of people are moving into that neutral zone right now, where they're kind of moving into a little bit more of acceptance. Now, here's the thing, and I want you to type into the chat, when we're in the new beginning, I don't know, some of you may be in the new beginning already, and some of you may be in the ending to the neutral zone. Type in the chat where you are right now. Are you still in that place of frustration and stress? Are you starting to move to acceptance? Like, where are you? And the thing you need to remember is where you are is not necessarily where everybody in your team is. So we all go through this wave at a different time, right? And so if you're in enthusiasm, someone on your team may be in frustration and stress. So as a leader, you really need to recognize where they are at. Often leaders do get to the new beginning quicker because we're part of the strategy, right? And we are part of moving people forward, and we're planning, right? So when somebody says they're in enthusiasm, somebody getting to hope. Really interesting that a lot of you are moving to hope and enthusiasm right now. Very different from what I saw 5-6 weeks ago. Very different. And if you're still in frustration, anger, shock, and stress, don't worry about it. There's no judgment, right? The goal is to move yourself. You're not going to go from shock to enthusiasm. It's a process, right? So just do what it takes to get yourself to the next step. Okay. So how are we going to best minimize resistance to change? That's inevitable. So you got to recognize these 3 psychological phases, and then you communicate the change. I don't know if anyone knows the tool with them. It's what's in it for me. Make sure when you communicate the change, you communicate using language that resonates with your team. Okay, so here's what's in it for you. It's really important. Show them what the old way was and show them what the new way was, right? Share this with your team. Show them and ask them. I've had many clients who've showed this to their team and said, where are you right now? And let's talk about that, right? That's a great way to coach people. Another really nice tool around change is share with people what is and what isn't right now. Like, here's a list of what it is. Like, we're still working from home. We don't know when we're going back. Here's what isn't. It's not a change to your role and how important you are. So do a nice list of what is and what isn't with people. It's such a powerful tool to help them see what's in it for me. Okay, so a couple things we want to do. We have 7 more minutes. I'm going to share a little bit with you about our masterclass, and I'm going to introduce you to a client of mine, Erin, who's with us online in a minute as well. So today was like, whoa, I feel like we were on a roller coaster. Like, all of the pieces that I just shared with you, I spent typically 3 hours, like 3 hours on change, 3 hours on coaching. So if you liked today, if you feel it was valuable, we know that in an hour, it's like a dent in your leadership practice. And I hope that you take 1 or 2 things away that was helpful. So what I'm joining with ULI, partnering with ULI to do is starting next Thursday, 10 to 11:30, we're going to focus on 4 different modules. Okay, each is very distinct. Each focus on, we're going to focus on manage my team, and then we're going to focus on lead my business, know myself, then manage my team, then lead my business. Okay. You are going to get an email from ULI today about how to register for the program. If you have questions for me, I'm going to share my email with you. Email me and say, Vanessa, wow, this sounds really interesting. It's $2.99 per person. An email blast, as I said, will be sent out today. It's also going to be posted on the ULI website. If you have more questions, email me and just say, wow, I'm really interested. I love what I learned today. I definitely want to learn more and take my leadership practice to the next level. If you're really committed to do that, you're going to love this program. Okay, here's what it's going to help you. Like, here's some of the results you're going to get. Whatever's holding you back right now as a leader, we're going to unpack that. Okay, use your strengths to enhance your effectiveness. Know exactly how to coach, how to give feedback, how to lead change and prioritize. Someone just posted around the slides. Go to Top Leadership. I'm going to share with you topleadershipskills.com, Clayton, and you're going to get a workbook that has all of the content that I shared with you today in the slides. In greater detail in a really nice workbook format, okay? So I'd like to introduce you to Erin. So Erin is a client of mine. She's a software marketing executive. She is she has that beautiful combination as a leader between being very outcome focused and client service centric, but also amazing with her people. The tools that I share with you work at every level. When Erin went through my program, she was already an executive, right? And it even took her leadership practice to the next level. And I've shared some of this content with people who are brand new to leadership. So it doesn't matter where you are in your leadership journey. This content will really be helpful and meet you where you're at. So is Erin on the line? Erin, are you?
I am. Can you guys, can everybody hear me and see me?
Oh, there you are. Hey.
Hi there. Hey, Vanessa.
How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing well, thanks. It's a beautiful day in Dallas, Texas, so I can't complain.
Oh, it's so nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Okay, so let's talk about this program that we're sort of suggesting everybody take right now to really help leadership practice to the next level. especially in uncertain times. What did you find was most valuable for you?
Yeah. So when I actually went through the course, as Vanessa mentioned, I was in a pretty senior leadership position already. And I've gone through, like many of you all, I've gone through a number of leadership programs, probably read, every leadership book I could get my hands on over the course of my career. And what was so valuable about this course is that I had taken on a new role in a brand new company, and I was in the process of bringing new competencies into a business. And Vanessa talked about left brain. I am left brain, and I also care very, very much about people, and that's why I got into leadership and why I've continued to be in leadership over the course of my career. So these two things can be in conflict with each other, because I know how to do it, and my brain is saying, this is how you should do it. And I'm going, oh, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I want to up level them, but I know what the business needs to get to. And so what was so valuable about this entire program and the time that I got to spend with Vanessa was that she really helped me neutralize my communication. And so I was able to help my team through organizational changes, cultural changes, teach them how to do new tasks. I had very senior people on my team, and Vanessa really helped me to be able to bring people new skills who were senior and really helped me look at things in a different light. She taught me about blind spots. She made me so much more brave about offering feedback that I just didn't want to give. And what I realized is, as a leader, you have a responsibility to give that feedback because it may be a blind spot to somebody. And then she gives the tools to help you through it. And maybe you went through a course or read a book at some point in your career about doing these things, but in the moment, especially in the face of this global health crisis that we are in, having those tools handed to you effectively on a silver platter, very practical tools to apply in your role. That was one of the most valuable things for me at the time that I went through the course with Vanessa. And, I continue to apply them to my life today. So really helping to communicate and neutralize that communication and really get the point across effectively was one of the most valuable things about the course with Vanessa.
That's awesome. And I saw your progress, and I have to say, Erin, we talked about fixed growth mindset. You have that growth mindset. And I really saw you apply it to everything. Even though you're already an executive and have learned so much, what I love about you is you always bring that growth mindset to everything you do.
Thanks. Yeah. I think curiosity is key. And Vanessa just really reminds us how effective curiosity can be as a leader.
Yeah, it really shifts you out of that place of judgment into curiosity. It really shifts the way you think and handle problems, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So what was the biggest challenge before the program?
Mm-hmm.
And how did it help you?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I came in, like I said, I was rebuilding a team. I had some new people on my team. I had some people that had been on my team for a while. And so I had a real array of people. I had people that were early in their careers. And then I had people that had been in their career for a while, but perhaps were new to the philosophy and the practice that I was bringing in. And so having a team that's really on a wide spectrum of experiences and talent was a very interesting mix to walk into. And it's kind of like parenting for those of you who are parents. You can't parent any child, there's no two children that you can parent the same. And so I was spending a lot of energy trying to figure out how to work with each one of my team members to accomplish the goals that I was brought in to achieve for the organization. And what Vanessa really helped me do is work with each one of my team members and be where they were. And she mentioned this earlier about when somebody's really senior, if they're new to doing a different type of work, you actually have to coach them at the task level, or direct them at the task level. You're not coaching them. And so that was something that I really worked on, and it became very powerful for me as my role expanded and continued to shift. And I took on a broader remit, and then I had more people on my team that were doing a whole bunch of different tasks that they'd never done before. And it gave me permission to be able to direct at the task level and then coach. And that really was liberating for me as a leader.
Yeah. It's true, because it helps you really focus on where you need to be spending your time with different people, depending on their learning curve and where they need to be developed. Yeah, for sure. So one last question, then I'm going to be around. A couple people said, will you be here at 1 o'clock for questions? Yes, I'm going to stick around, Like if you need me for 30 minutes, I'm going to be here. Alex, did you want to say something?
Yes, actually, it's Alex speaking, director at ULI Toronto. I know we're at 1 o'clock right now, and we always end all of our programs at ULI Toronto on time. So as Vanessa had just offered, she will stay on the line to answer any questions that anybody might have. So please feel free to hang on. And just as a reminder, we do have a couple of webinars coming up. So tomorrow we have our webinar on Expert Insights webinar on the provincial policy statement and community benefits changes. So that's happening tomorrow at 12. And then in the next couple of minutes, everybody should be receiving information on the masterclass. An email blast is scheduled to go out any minute now. So for anybody that is interested in signing up for the 4-week module, that email blast should be hitting your inbox. So thank you so much for everybody joining us, and please feel free to hang on the line if you have any questions for Vanessa and Erin. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So anybody have any questions either for Erin or I, or for Alex at ULI, any questions people have about the content? If you want to ask me personally, privately, just email me, vanessa@mosaicpd.com. If you want to download the workbook, go to topleadershipskills.com. It has all of the content in it. You're welcome to unmute yourself. Anybody would like to unmute themselves and ask a question?
So Vanessa, it looks like there was a question that came through that I'd be willing to give my perspective on from Susan about a sole proprietor, considering if this program would be beneficial. So I'll just add my 2 cents to this. I think this program is beneficial for anybody who has to work with other people, which is pretty much all of us. And here's why. It gives you tools on how to communicate. If you're a sole proprietor, you're probably working with clients and you're having to manage those relationships. So this isn't just about leading a team. You're constantly working with other people in all aspects of your life. And one of the funny things is that Vanessa talked about the what questions. My husband will look at me and he goes, "Oh, don't start with the what questions again, Erin," because I bring them in. I've brought so many of the techniques that Vanessa has brought to me. I brought them into every aspect of my life, so much so that my own family can recognize when I'm going into that mode. So I would absolutely recommend this program for anybody who has to work in multidimensional relationships.
Yeah, it's true, Erin. I want my family all the time and drive me nuts. What was your favorite thing about school today? I don't know, Mom. Yes. What questions is my key takeaway? Oh, excellent. Let's hear from other people what your key takeaway was. For those of you left on the line, what was your key nugget? What was your key takeaway? And again, if there's any questions, pop them into chat or unmute yourself. And if not, let's pop in your key takeaway, your key learning or your key insight, and then we'll wrap up. So let's hear so what questions? I hear that was a key learning or takeaway. What else? What was your key learning or takeaway from today? Strategy needed. Good. Good. Yeah, it's an interesting time around strategy because you still need to be strategic, even with an uncertain future. Growth. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That growth mindset is so key, and being curious. Absolutely. If you want to unmute yourself, you can press Alt-A on your computer or press *6.
You know, on that point, Vanessa, around growth through curiosity, it is extremely liberating to remove the pressure, the weight of the world on your shoulders when you feel like you have to solve every problem as a leader, and just simply ask questions, use some of the techniques that Vanessa can teach you with that. It is liberating, and it's like a pressure reliever when you switch to growth mindset and you just get curious. What the other thing about it is you uncover so much more, so much faster than you ever would if you tried to go at it alone.
Yeah, it's so true. And Erin, I love what you said about taking the pressure off. Like people think like, I'm a leader, I need to know everything. No, you don't. Why should you? Just because your role is leader, but do know those questions. Do ask them. Bring them to your team. Key takeaway, I don't have to all the answers yet. I really like the information versus, yeah, the formal versus formal coaching is so good. Aside from having a strategy, I've heard something similar before, but like your version better. Eat your big frog first. Yeah, that's really cool. Clayton, thanks for that. Super. So thank you, Erin, so much for being here. Oh, just so nice to see you. And I want to see you too. Everybody at ULI, Alex, Richard, Denise, Jen, it always takes a village. And working with ULI, partnering with ULI is always a pleasure because everyone in the team is so amazing. So thank you, Alex.
And thank you, Vanessa, and thank you, Erin, so much. Thank you so much for this webinar. We've been getting a lot of great feedback in the chat from everybody. So.
Awesome. And I hope to see many of you in the program that we're running starting next Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's lunchtime. Let's go eat lunch. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.